Hello and welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS NFL Podcast. I'm Katie Mox here with Will Brinson and John Breech. Today we're discussing NFL future bets to make right now. Aaron Rodgers and his beef with Green Bay and the never-ending Tom Brady retirement news. Of course, make sure you keep it locked with us all offseason long for any news that you will need for the NFL. Subscribe on the YouTube page. If you're listening to audio, download, follow, leave a 5-star review. Tell your friends to listen and watch the pod. You know the deal. Obviously, we're already having a hard time speaking today, so this is going to be a fun one. Brinson and Breech, how are you?
Good, great, grand, spectacular. How you doing, Breech?
Brinson, are you coming to us from like an underground bunker?
Yeah,
and you cannot disclose the location, so you have a completely white background.
I should have told you before the podcast started what's going on. I could drop like Carter Finley behind me. I think I got some kind of settings, or maybe I haven't done in a while is my
a cool living room,
little piano, my little.
There we go.
There we go. How's that? Is that better?
Wow.
So, Katie, before you got on the show, Brinson was using this background, and people thought that was his actual house. And they were impressed that he owned a grand piano, when in fact, this is not Brinson's actual house. He does not own a grand piano. And so I would just like anybody watching on YouTube to know that for a fact.
I believe the actual quote was, of all the people on planet Earth who you would think would own a piano but not be able to play a piano, like I would be like one of the top people that you would pick for that.
Well, and I could just imagine after a couple cocktails, even if you don't know how to play the piano, I don't see you on there getting all like Elton John on us.
Although oddly enough, I guess ironically, which obviously literally the most overused term in the world, outside of literally, my mother taught piano.
Oh,
and has a piano in her house, and I cannot play the piano. That is irony. Now, that is most certainly irony.
Did she try to teach you and you just didn't want to, or she just didn't even bother?
I don't really recall ever trying. I think it was one of those where she would taught piano for like other, she taught, she didn't want to deal with me.
The only song Brinson knows is that one from The Hangover. What do tigers dream of when they take a little tiger snooze? That's it. That's Brinson's whole
multiple hangover references in the last two shows too.
I know. Brady said that he looked like Galifianakis the other day, which a thinner version, we should say. He said he looked like a thinner version. But yeah, especially with the hair like this, you can see it. The only song I know on the piano is, what is it? Is it Chopsticks? The do 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 do. Yeah, that one. And there's one that you can do with your fist, right? You know that you do 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 do. No, all right. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, that's my piano lesson for the day. All right, fellas, this week kicks off 100 days until the NFL season. And our friend Cody Benjamin wrote an article on CBSSports.com titled 100 Things to Know with 100 Days Until Week 1 Kickoff News, Notes, and Odds for all 32 teams. So you'll want to check that out. However, we thought we'd put a little DGen spin on it, if you will, and give you our best bets to throw down $100 right now for any NFL future bets. So we each have 4 bets, sprinkling out $100 different ways. Brinson, what's your first bet that you're making right now?
Well, and I'll point out, and I'm not 100% sure what breaches are, but you can throw it up there. Bills division winner. All of mine are plus money. So I'm only spending $100. You guys, if you have anything with minus odds, you'll be spending more than $100, which is fine, whatever. The point, it's really more an exercise about let's try and get, the best. But it's really more of 100 days out, 100 things, $100 to wager. I think it's crazy that we're 100 days out from the NFL season. When you say that, it's like, oh my God, it feels like the NFL season is really far away. But I mentioned this a bunch. I'll keep pounding the table for it.
There's one comment I have to read before you start. Douglas says, I think Brinson would be more of a Jerry Lee Lewis than an Elton John. And I could see that. Great balls of fire.
Thank you. I appreciate that, I think. I don't know. By the way, Billy Joel ending his residency at Madison Square Garden. Finally, he's acknowledging that Fish is the superior MSG band, not him, not Billy Joel. I think he played a concert there every month for the last 15
and I never
years.
Went. Oh my God. Is it over now or not yet?
I don't know. Speaking of hangovers, Billy Joel is out. Anyway, the Bills to win the division plus 135. As I mentioned, I think, I almost went $50 on this one. I only went 3 bets. We ended up going 4 bets apiece. I just think the Bills are the best team in that division. I think the Bills are just not getting the proper credit, much like the 2022 Kansas City Chiefs, who closed at plus 160. Buffalo at plus 135 feels like a really, really good bet. Could the could the Jets come in with Aaron Rodgers and steal the division? Of course. Could the Dolphins be explosive with Tua playing 17 games? Yeah, absolutely. Those things are definitely possible. But you have the Bills, a team that's won the division 3 straight years. I'm total disrespect to Bill Belichick, Mac Jones, and the Patriots. But I think that Buffalo, with their roster and the way that they are set up, their only deficiency is that they can't beat the Chiefs. Like, just beat Kansas City
or
the Bengals. But no, of course, like the Bengals
team's not in their division.
Right. I mean, the point being is that, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. He's already a little banged up. We'll talk about him more. I think he'll be motivated, but the Bills are still a really, really good team. And it feels like they are being disrespected in the market with them being plus 135. So give me the Bills at that plus number to win the division.
I like that. I like them to win the division, but I wouldn't bet them to win the Super Bowl again. Breach.
Yeah, you don't want to lose your money there, Katie. We know you don't like.
Well, you don't have to bet the Bills to win the Super Bowl right now at that short number. When the playoffs start, they're going to be. What I'm saying is,
I'd like the bet to win the division. I wouldn't bet them farther than that.
I know, but I'm saying that, like, even if you think that they might win the Super Bowl, what do they do win the Super Bowl right now? 7-1, something like that. Like something that it's not a very good number.
Yeah,
like you have to wait the entire season, hope nothing goes wrong. Whereas
9-1.
9-1. I mean, still, like, it's just.
Yeah. I will just say the one thing that scares me about the Bills is that they are in a division where I think the Dolphins got better and they went 9-8 last season. I think that the Patriots got better with the old addition by subtraction. Just getting rid of Matt Patricia automatically makes that team better. And they went 8-9 last season. So even if their offense is just good enough to win, say, 2 more games, maybe they go 10-7. And then the Jets obviously got better. That team went 7-10 with Zach Wilson, and you had Aaron Rodgers, and it just seems like all those teams feel like they got at least 1 win better, and those wins have to come from somewhere. And I feel like the Bills would be the team that, I do think the Bills, I will predict them to win the division, but I'm not sure I feel comfortable betting on them.
But what you're describing is literally last year's AFC West, where everyone's like, the Raiders got better, the Chargers got better, the Broncos obviously got better. They got Russell Wilson. It just seems very, very similar in terms of the setup. And like the Chiefs were so I think the Bills would be I think the Bills would be closer to the Jets if the Chiefs had not won.
But hold on, there was a small difference there. Is that not only did the other teams, the AFC West, like that storyline took off because not only
the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill,
Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill. The Bills didn't lose anyone, and we're having this conversation. So we're still saying that other teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can easily make the case that the Chiefs are a better overall team than the Bills, and that they're more trustworthy because they have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. But I mean, I'm not. That's the one difference I think that the. You could maybe have a little concern, but you're talking about a second year with Ken Dorsey. I think they'll be fine. I'm not. I think the Bills will win the division. Plus money for the Bills to win the division.
Dom in the chat just said he set his money on fire and bet the Bills to win the Super Bowl.
This feels like the Bills can win the Super Bowl. Like, nobody believed in us, you jabronis.
There's also the little known fact or trend that once a quarterback starts dating a celebrity, they tend to win the MVP. You look at Aaron Rodgers when he was dating Olivia Munn, won the MVP. Also with Shailene Woodley, and there is Josh Allen, who is now dating Haley Steinfeld, musician and actress. So yeah, maybe there's something to it.
I
win MVP, but not the Super Bowl. Key distinction.
Yes, not the Super Bowl. That's very right. That's very right. All right, Breech, what's your first bet?
My first bet, Brinson had a division bet. Well, Brinson was saying his are all plus money. All of my bets are plus 380 or longer, Brinson. None of this plus 135 junk. I am hitting home runs for people here. You're out here trying to hit dribblers, hit singles. I'm going to make the people some big money. Because all I need is one of these 4 to hit, and you're going to profit off my picks. So my first one, since you started with division winner, I will
8 to 1 to lead the league in rushing yards. Get out of town.
I will also go with a division winner here.
Oh
no, I won't. I will go with since Billy
it says on the screen, Derrick Henry to lead the league in rushing.
Billy's making my decision for me. First prediction is Derrick Henry is plus 800 to lead the NFL in rushing yards. To me, that is bonkers. That is absolutely stunning value to be able to get with Derrick Henry. And I know what you're thinking. Maybe he hasn't been as good as he has in the past few years. Well, first of all, last season, when every team, everybody's already trying to stop him because just because he's the Titans' whole offense. But you had to add on to that because the Titans didn't have Ryan Tannehill for 5 games. So teams knew Derrick Henry was literally the only way this team was going to win. And he still finished second in the NFL in rushing. So despite all the issues they had with their offensive line, with their quarterback situation, Derrick Henry still finished second in the NFL in rushing. He has finished top 2 in the NFL in rushing in 3 of the past 4 years, leading the league in 2019 and 2020. And you're giving me plus 800 with Tannehill, with an offense that has proven that the only thing they know how to do is block for Derrick Henry. I'm going to take plus 800 here. I love it.
Just out of curiosity, Breech, since you're poo-pooing my picks and touting your own touts.
Going against the Brinson model?
I said if I was going to pick someone, it would be the Bills. I just wouldn't bet money on them.
That's agreeing with Brinson.
You mentioned that Derrick Henry has been first or second in the league in rushing yards. Each in 3 of the last 4 years. What happened in that year where he didn't finish second, and what was it a result of?
He got injured.
Why did he get injured? Did it have to do anything with the number of carries he had maybe the year before?
Why would that have anything to do with it? Why would that injury?
Because there's a rule of 300.
I feel like you're doing the
okay. Brinson, he had 300 carries in 2019 and then rushed for 2,000 yards in 2020. The rule 300 rules don't apply to Derrick Henry.
That's what Bill Barnwell and I said in the middle of the 2021 season. We're like, I guess the Football Outsiders rule, it's 330 is the rule, I believe. 330 carries or more. If you hit 330 carries or more, you are more than likely to break down the following year.
No, but he was still on pace for 1,800 rushing yards. It's not like he slowed down or took a step back. He got hurt because he took so many carries.
A
fluke injury. Are you kidding me? It had nothing to do with the amount of carries he took.
I would guess that it did.
Yeah. So it's interesting. They have the odds have Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb above Derrick Henry at plus 750, which Jonathan Taylor didn't have a great season last season.
Nah, I don't hate the idea. Well, with Jonathan Taylor, you get Anthony Richardson in there. Typically, when you get a mobile quarterback, that opens things up for for your running back a little bit more. Yeah. They have a decent offensive line.
Matt Ryan wasn't doing it.
Yeah, Matt Ryan. Yeah, we saw with Jalen Hurts. It really helped Miles Sanders when he developed. You talk about that same offense coming over to Indianapolis, and then with Nick Chubb, you have a situation where if Deshaun Watson is reasonably decent this year, Chubb will have a much easier time running the football. I think again, a lot of these futures odds, we're seeing them get squeezed. These shouldn't be this many guys under 15 to 1 to lead the league in rushing. It's really hard to do. You have to stay healthy over a long period of time. You have to be effective. It involves whether or not your team has leads. For instance, now the Titans, to Breech's point, to Breech's credit, the Titans are one of the teams where even if they're losing in games, the Titans are going to want to keep games low scoring. And even if they're losing in games, I don't envision a situation where they stop feeding Derrick Henry if he's healthy. So I don't hate. I just wanted to crap on Breech's bet because he did on mine, but I tend to think that look, Derrick Henry is always capable of leading the league in rushing, and the fact that he's not the fact that it's not 3 to 1 or 5 to 1 is some value. It's just I hate a future like this at sub 10 to 1 because it's just so hard to hit.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys are giving tons of value, which I understand. And I have some value picks down the line, but why not make some money with the very first week, the very first night? I'm looking at the Lions and the Chiefs. Obviously, Chiefs are laying 7 now. It opened up at 6.5, already been bet up, but the total is 54. And so I'm going to take this under 54. And as much as I like the Fighting Dan Campbells, and I do really think that they have improved this offseason. And a fun fact that I was reading, did y'all know that Jared Goff is the most profitable quarterback against the spread in week 1 over the past 20 years? He's 6-0 against the spread in his openers, obviously with the Rams, and then here with the Lions. but I'm still not going to doubt Patrick Mahomes. So I'm laying off of the side. I do like this under, and it's basically just based on a lot of week one trends. Since 2000, the under is hit in 53% of week one games. Also Thursday night game, as we know, Thursday night games, incredibly low scoring. All but 4 games, I believe, last year in TNF with a total of 50 or greater, hit the under at 78%. We do know that offenses tend to struggle a little bit out the gate. And I do think that the Lions have improved their secondary. So I like this under 54. Yes, it's at -110. You're not getting crazy value, but if you want to make some money very first game, I like the under.
You're not going to, I think you see these teams start slowly, out of the gate. I guess I'm trying to think. I feel like the Bucks and the Cowboys game started really slowly and then kind of took off late. I might be crazy. And then we had the year? I'm trying to think of these first, and then the Rams.
The last couple, the Rams, and that barely got. Well, depend on where you got the number. It was like right there in the 2021 season when it was, yeah.
Yeah, I think you could see a situation where the number comes down a little bit as we get closer to the closer to the start of the season. I'm fine with it.
I would say the only thing that scares me about the under, and I like 95% of Katie's logic. The only thing that scares me though, Katie, is the Chiefs. If you look at the past 6 week one openers, the first game of the season, 3 of them have hit the over, and 2 of those 3 involve the Chiefs. So the Chiefs have only played in it twice in the past since 2017. They played the Patriots 2017. That was a 42-27 final. And then they played the Texans in 2020, and that was a 34-20 final. So like the Chiefs always come at, I mean, this is Brinson, we've said all the time. This is Andy Reid off the bye. This is Andy Reid with 5 months of preparation to dice up your defense. And so just the fact that the Chiefs have scored so many points in their week one openers, that would be the part that would scare me there. Everything else I like. So it's really, offenses generally start slow to start the season, except for the Chiefs.
I agree with you, but I do think that the Lions have beefed up their secondary, both in the draft and in free agency. So that will be interesting to see. And I believe that some of those totals were like 56, 55, a little bit even higher than this one is. But yeah, I mean, with the Chiefs betting an under, it's always a gamble, but I'm still sticking with that one. Brinson, what is your second pick to make right now?
Apparently the Falcons division winner at plus 260. Look, I'm sort of kind of beating a dead horse, so to speak, or beating a dead bird, beating a dirty bird, I guess it would be.
A dirty bird.
Beating the dirty bird here. Because these are things that I've mentioned throughout the season, but that tends to be a trend. I try to be consistent with, you find your approach, you find the stuff you like, and then you want to stay on it. And, especially like in the last 2 years, I've been tricked out of picking an accurate Super Bowl winner of the team I wanted to win the Super Bowl by someone maybe on this podcast with his shenanigans. And so I'm not going to shy away from. I don't shy away from leaning in to what I think will happen in the NFL season. And I think the Falcons are going to be a pretty good football team this year. Breech talked about the Titans and Derrick Henry. I think this is going to be the Tennessee light, and that we are going to see Bijan Robinson, who's I professed my undying love for this rookie running back, come in and be Arthur Smith's version of Derrick Henry. You got fresh legs. You still have plenty of depth there. We saw Tyler Algier, a rookie last year, play well in that system. So I think it's an easy system to pick up. You got signed Chris Lindstrom and Caleb McGarry to new deals, so they have consistency on the offensive line. And then Desmond Ridder is not going to magically turn into Tom Brady or like freaking 2004 Peyton Manning all of a sudden overnight, but he fits very similarly with what we saw from Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, and then they added a lot to the defense. I just saw a lot of improvements in Atlanta. I think at almost 3-1, you're getting some really good value here on the Falcons to win the division.
I can't disagree. I feel like the NFC South is where the money is to be made this year. If you can kind of point to a team that's going to win it, they're all plus money, whether you bet the Saints at plus 115, Brinson's bet the Falcons at plus 260, the Panthers at plus 330. The fact that the Falcons somehow just kind of snuck their way to 7-10, They added Bijan Robinson, as Brinson said. The Panthers have that huge question mark with Bryce Young. You don't know what they're going to look like. Who knows what's going to happen in New Orleans? We've seen quarterbacks switch teams and not play well. It's sure Derek Carr has his buddy John Gruden coming in, helping him learn the offense. But who knows if that's actually going to help. So, Brinson, unlike your Bills pick where I wasn't fervently on board with, I like this one a lot.
My biggest concern is honestly the Carolina Panthers. And it's like the Saints could be decent too. But I actually saw, I think it was Ian Hartitz of PFF, or I think it was PFF, maybe my fantasy life, whichever one it is now. He put up a PFF screenshot of, it was like two quarterbacks. Like, can you guess who these two quarterbacks are? It's like the better graded one was Andy Dalton. The lower graded one was Derek Carr from last year, which I just think is an interesting thing and only helps to beef up Breech's approval of my pick.
Brinson, what is the Brinson model? Well, one, how many wins do you have the Falcons getting? And just also like in division, do you think they're splitting games with, say, the Saints and the Panthers, or do you think they could sweep anybody?
I'm glad you asked that, Katie. Of course, I do have the Brinson model handy. Actually, did you tell me? Somebody was telling me a different name for the Brinson model. It's like the Brinson method, maybe.
I like model.
I like model because I like people to know that this is a high level, very proprietary projection system. Here's what I have for the Falcons. They've been beating Carolina at home in week 1. They lose at Tampa Bay. They win at home against New Orleans, win at home against Tampa Bay, lose at Carolina, and lose at New Orleans. So a straight split for the Falcons, who I get to 10 wins without, by just splitting in the division. And again, and actually, it's a great question by you, because it comes back to the whole thing about them having a pretty choice schedule, because Carolina, Green Bay to start, at Detroit, at Jacksonville, I have both losses. Houston at home is a W. Washington, I even give a W at home, a loss at home against Washington. At Tampa Bay, a loss, as I mentioned. I mean, there's just a lot of chances for this Falcons team to pile up wins if they're solid defensively and an elite rushing team, which I think they can be.
Yeah, I like that. But splitting in the division, which shows kind of how close this division matches up. All right, Breech, what is your next bet to make right now? Oh, I like this. Hell yeah.
I know. It's like Katie and I are best friends now, because I know what her next prediction is, which I won't mention right this second. But my prediction is for her team, the San Francisco 49ers finishing.
This is podcast pandering.
I didn't even know Breech's.
I feel like they might be podcast treason, because you guys are just each other.
Brinson's gonna hate life when it's the Bengals 49ers Super Bowl. We're just have to kick him off the podcast.
Oh, I can't wait.
2-on-1. He's not gonna know what to do.
How have the Bengals 49ers Super Bowls gone for the Bengals in history?
We don't need to talk about that yet. We'll wait till it actually happens, and then I'll cry about it. But look, here's what I see with the 49ers. This is a team that obviously made it to the NFC title game last year, despite all of their issues at quarterback. And not only did they make it to the NFC title game, they finished 13-4. They were only one game off having the best record in the NFL. So you're telling me the team that plays in a much easier conference than, any of these AFC teams you would think about betting on, their quarterback situation, Kyle Shanahan, for sure, is going to make sure he has 3 quarterbacks who could all capably fill in if he needs it, because that guy knows he's jinxed with these quarterback injuries. He's thinking, all right, I got Brock Purdy, I got Sam Darnold, I got Trey Lance. All these guys are going to get first-team reps during the preseason so that I know and trust every single one of them can play at some point during the season. And then you look at their schedule. They're in not a difficult division. I mean, the Cardinals and Rams feel like layup games for them. The Seahawks, obviously not as easy. But, man, I could just see the 49ers running off 14 wins, finishing with the best win, and at plus 800, really? The team that finished one game off the best record has plus 800 going into the season. I love it. I like the 49ers.
I love that.
$30, by the way. I forgot. $30.
You like that, Katie?
Okay. I love it. I love it. I love that. Well, Niners
surprised.
Twitter right now is in an uproar. I don't know if you guys saw that Sam Darnold got the reps with the ones yesterday, and Trey Lance was sent down to the twos, and Trey Lance apparently had 3 drops. Sam Darnold only had 2, and so everyone's thinking, oh, is Sam Darnold, right? I'm getting the right quarterback. Is Sam Darnold going to replace Trey Lance? Which I'm sure they all get their reps with the ones and the twos, and it's not that big of a deal. But I agree with what you're saying. It seems like what's going on with Brock Purdy right now, they really, really like the progress that he's making. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Darnold passes Trey Lance on the depth chart.
It wouldn't be insane to think that with Brock Purdy's situation and his injury that, if you believe, like, the idea that Sam Darnold can be a good quarterback in the Kyle Shanahan system is not outrageous.
It's not crazy.
Like, not remotely outrageous. Like, dudes who, that's right, breaches the 49ers helmet, which solidifies the point about Sam Darnold. Like, Sam Darnold had, correct me if I'm wrong here, Todd Bowles, Adam Gase, and Matt Rule as his head coach.
Not ideal.
Not great, Bob. And so
not
now
even close to Shanahan.
Right. Now you get Kyle Shanahan, and you get this offensive system that is just designed to bring out the best in quarterbacks by virtue not just of like its ability to surprise defenses with the way that it builds off of this, it builds play action off of the run game. It flows one way. It makes you believe that the 49ers are doing something. It disguises stuff and builds layers on top of it. But 2, the reads are easy. You don't have to be some elite processing quarterback. You just have to be able to wisely get the ball out quickly and to the right place. Look at Tua as a point guard in Mike McDaniel's system last year versus what he was doing before. It's the exact same thing. It would not be crazy if they said, okay, we think we can survive with Sam Darnold to start the season. And then if Brock Purdy's healthy enough, we'll bring along. If Sam's playing great, we don't rush Brock Purdy back. Or if Sam stinks, then we just throw Trey Lance in there and figure it out. The 49ers have done a good job giving themselves outs for the various situations at quarterback this year.
Well, because we've had so much experience with quarterbacks not doing what they need to. Okay, we're going to get more to this.
Let me throw one more thing in, Katie, real quick. The 49ers have the 5th best odds. So even though it's plus 800, it's not like they have the 10th best odds. They have the Chiefs have the best odds, followed by the Eagles, Bengals, Bills, and then the 49ers.
You'd also be crazy to bet somebody in the AFC, in my opinion, versus the NFC for that best record.
Right, based on strength of schedule and who they're going against. All right. Yes, agree 100%. We're going to take a quick break here. But if you like winning picks, then Sportsline is your one-stop shop for the best bets on upcoming games. Get up-to-the-minute news, injury updates, and other need-to-know stats to make smart bets. Featuring the top voices in the betting space like Todd Furman, Mike McClure, Kenny White, Emery Hunt, myself, Katie Mox, and more. Sportsline is on every Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, available on the go via the CBS Sports app. You're watching Pick 6. We'll be right back. Oh, look, there I am.
All eyes are on Italy.
Absolutely astonishing.
As the race to qualify for Europe.
Huge moment.
All comes down to the final match day.
It's a goal.
Stream every pivotal Serie A match live on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back to the Pick 6 podcast. If you are not following us on social, go ahead and do that at Pick 6 Pod across all social platforms. I do want to address one thing in the chat. Vic says Trey Lance slander stock is at its peak. I would not say any of this is Trey Lance slander. It's just not Sam Darnold slander. And unfortunately, we've seen more of Sam Darnold than we've ever seen of Trey Lance. I am hopeful that Trey Lance is going to be everything that we drafted him to be, but we just haven't seen that yet. And so we feel more comfortable talking about quarterbacks that we know can actually do well in this system. All right.
And I was going to say too, like very quickly, like you look at MVP odds, Trey Lance, I almost threw this out there. Trey Lance's MVP 40-1. It's just like, it feels like it should be 80-1 based on where we're at. It's how restrictive that market has become.
I agree. And all right, Breech, you scratched my back. I'm not going to scratch yours right now. And I'm going to take the Bengals at 10-1 for a value pick to win the Super Bowl. Now, I have 2 bets that are kind of $25 on each, and they're kind of in the same realm here. So I'll just go through both of them. But first with the Bengals, obviously the Chiefs are a favorite for a reason. And if you want to go chalk on this, there ain't no blame or shame there. You look at the Niners and the Eagles and the Bills that, of course, round out the top of the odds board. Niners, even though we just talked about it, still too many question marks for me at quarterback, and we haven't been able to get over that NFC championship hump over the last couple of years. Eagles, I know Billy and Eagles fans don't like to hear this, but I do think they're due for some regression based on the strength of schedule and how hard it is to come back after losing a Super Bowl. So at 10-1, I think this is the best odds that we are going to see the Bengals all season long. They're the favorite to win their division. They got Joe Burrow, who has been Mahomes' kryptonite, only quarterback to beat him 3 times. Since he also has arguably the best trio of receivers, you got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I know we're going to maybe get into Tyler Boyd a little bit later here. They've made some improvements in their defense in the draft. So I like that, but I'm also not mad at, which is maybe my second part of this bet, which also is $25. Maybe just say AFC North is the winning division for the Super Bowl at plus 450. You look at their quarterbacks, you got Joe Burrow, you got Lamar Jackson, you got Watson, which we don't even know what he's going to be yet, but he has the potential to be what he was at one point. You got proven head coaches. You got John Harbaugh, Zach Taylor, Mike Tomlin, never had a losing division. And you've got some really good defenses and all of those offensive weapons. So I do think that the AFC North maybe is a little bit slept on in terms of a division. But if I'm going to pick one, I like the Bengals.
Ooh. I mean, obviously, you don't have to twist my arm on this one. I 100% agree with the pick. I did not make it myself because I didn't want to go over homering, but I don't have to do it because Katie did it for me. And I think I said this last week that to me, this team this year, the Bengals team, is without a doubt the best Bengals team they've had over the past 3 years. That includes the Super Bowl team from 2 years ago and the team that made the AFC Championship game last year. The biggest question mark was, hey, we lost a couple safeties. That's obviously an issue, but they upgraded on offense with the addition of Orlando Brown. The defense should still be plenty good. They still can rush the passer. They still are solid all around. And like Katie said, you know, this is the one team that's been able to beat Patrick Mahomes. They dunked on the Bills in the playoffs last year. It just feels like a team that certainly has the talent to win it all.
Yeah. I mean, I'm highly considering picking the Bengals to win the Super Bowl before the season, not as a way to take out Breech and his favorite team, because I just think that they're that good. And Joe Burrow is, you know, he's just the guy. Like, there's few people in the NFL that I trust as much as Joe Burrow. I almost would take. I've made the case at various points that I would take him over Patrick Mahomes if I was starting a franchise, which sounds absolutely insane. I think he would be my number 2 if I was starting a franchise. I mean, he's just a cold-blooded killer, and this could be the first year where he's not coming into the season dealing with. And again, you know, knock on wood, find some wood and knock on. Look, let's just knock on that door. Boop, 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 boop.
Knock on the piano.
Yeah, no, I guess I can knock on the piano. Yeah. Knock. You know, the point being is, like, Burrow had his first year as a pandemic. He's a rookie. You know, he got his playbook early because he was the first overall pick, but it's still a really difficult transition. And then you have in your second year, he's coming off a torn ACL. And so while, you know, he's learning the playbook and he's getting on, you know, on the same page with his receivers, he's still, like, you know, mostly focusing on physical recovery. And then you have the burst appendix last year. So if Burrow can be 100% going into the season this year, we can see the Bengals get off to a hot start and rip off, you know, 12, 13, 14 wins, get the number 1 seed, and then, you know, go streaking on a little run and maybe make the Super Bowl again.
How do y'all feel about the AFC North as the winning division? Because you look at other teams in there, and I know that we're worried about the Ravens and how far Lamar Jackson is going to go into this season, but you can't say that looking at that roster that they're not a contender.
Well, I think, and Breech again, you know, Homer, because we were talking about so it's plus 450. I'm trying to think what the math would be. I like.
I think it actually might be plus 475. I think it's plus 475.
I was going to say I like the bet because I think there is, like, I know that Browns fans are hate me right now because I said they're going to go 7-10. I had the Steelers going 9-8. Like, I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to turn them into a Super Bowl contender and suddenly they just, you know, light it up. But the dude played, you know, the guy almost won an ACC championship, but obviously much more difficult to win a Super Bowl. But point being is, you're talking about the 3rd and 4th best teams there. The depth of the AFC North, I might take, you know, the Steelers or the Browns over the Raiders,
over the value here.
The Broncos. Yeah, I mean, so, like, the value there is pretty good because you're getting really 2 elite teams.
And to that point, Brinson, somehow the AFC North has the second worst odds for a division when it comes to betting on the division that's going to win the Super Bowl, which makes no sense to me because I feel like it's if you were looking at a division and said, could any one of these teams win the Super Bowl, that would probably be the division I go with. Like the NFC East obviously has the Cowboys and Eagles. I don't think the Commanders, they're kind of on the level with the Steelers where maybe they're good, but I would trust the Steelers over the Commanders. Obviously, there's the AFC West, but as a whole, I think I trust the AFC North a little bit more, even though every single division has question marks. I don't think there's any division where you can say all 4 teams are absolutely Super Bowl contenders. But I told Katie before the show that I almost had the exact same bet, and this was it. I almost played the AFC North Super Bowl bet. It just seems like at least 3 of these teams will make the playoffs. And when you have 3 of the 7 teams in there, you have a pretty good, almost a 50% chance of one of them ending up in the Super Bowl.
I mean, 3 to make the playoffs, it might be a stretch. 2 to make the playoffs feels, like a lock.
3.
3 is totally possible. Look, the Browns, dude, Deshaun Watson could be awesome again. And nobody's going to feel great about that, but it's entirely possible.
Yeah, it is. It is entirely possible. I mean, yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. All right, Brinson, what is your next bet you are making right now? Oh, yes.
The Texans
Brinson, I love
win the division. Yeah, we're going deep here. I think that with the Texans and the Panthers and the Colts, you kind of need to take your stand here and say, if I like one of these teams to win its division, or I like one of these teams to be a much improved team, then you need to get that bet in now before we really start to see, get into training camps and you see whether injuries happen to other quarterbacks or other key players on teams that might be considered ahead of these, if I hate even speaking this into it. Let's just say that if the top running back on the Atlanta Falcons, which is yet to be determined because they still, the depth chart has to sort itself out. If that running back suffered an injury, or let's say the quarterback in New Orleans, I don't want to say anybody's name and injury because it feels bad, but
yes.
If Derek Carr got hurt in training camp, and it would completely flip the odds for the NFC South.
I mean, they have Jameis Winston. I don't know if it would completely flip it.
Well, then that's an indictment of the Saints.
No, I'm saying that they have one of the better backup that's not a great example because they have one of the
I know
backup QBs. They have
the point being is there's 2 things that could happen. 1, we could see injuries happen that could cause these odds to shrink. And then 2, what if CJ Stroud looks awesome in training camp? If CJ Stroud is an awesome offseason, and most people usually have a great offseason, we could see those odds move up. So I think with the Colts, with the Texans, with the Panthers, if you're interested in betting on those teams to be, to be successful this year, you want to consider getting it in earlier rather than later, because if the rookie quarterback plays well going into the season, those odds will shrink. Obviously, if the rookie quarterback plays poorly, the odds will get longer. You'll feel bad. But you're already putting your eggs in that basket anyway.
Brinson, it's funny that you mentioned this now. I think we both talked about a little bit last week when we talked about the AFC South that the Texans felt like you should sprinkle money on. Brinson's pouring it on. And Robert Woods last week, I think last Friday, he just signed with Houston and kind of held his first long press conference and was just asked his thoughts on the team. And he said he felt like the Texans 2023 version feels a lot like the Rams did in 2017. And that was a Rams team that I think went 4-12 in 2016. They fired Jeff Fisher. Robert Woods signs with them in 2017, about a month after they hired Sean McVay. So he's going to practice. He's saying, man, McVay's firing everyone up. Everyone's buying into this. And then that team made the playoffs, went to the Super Bowl the next year. So you have a guy who was in that situation saying this feels very similar. So to hear someone from the inside saying that and specifically comparing them to another team, man, you can sell me on the Texans, even though my next bet is going to completely contradict Brinson. I don't hate it. I like the idea of the Texans winning this division.
I mean, Katie just picked, and I like the Bengals to win the Super Bowl, but 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. And you're almost getting 10-1 to win your division in a division where let's not sleep on the fact that the Jaguars were 3-7, 11 weeks, I believe, into the year last year, or 10 weeks in going into their bye, looked done and reeled off some wins and won the division. Houston they've upgraded the quarterback with CJ Stroud, massive upgraded coach, in my opinion, from Lovie Smith to D'Amico Ryans, as Breech points out. And the comparison that Robert Woods brings up is interesting because when Sean McVay was hired, he brought in Wade Phillips. as he's like, look, I know what I know. I know offense. I got to focus on being a CEO here. I want to bring in somebody I can trust to run my defense. Well, D'Amico didn't bring in like an old, they bring in like, Norm Chow or anybody like that, but he did bring in Bobby Slowick from the 49ers. And I think that the passing game coordinator there, that is really intriguing to me. You look at Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce as running backs in that backfield. And then you add Robert Woods, one of the best blocking wide receivers out there. You have a good offensive line, and you don't have the DeAndre Hopkins elite one that they had back in the day when Watson and Hopkins were playing, but you have like a wide receiver depth chart now with Brandon Cooks going that I just think is like, it's good enough. And they also had a Dalton Schultz who doesn't get enough credit. I think you look at those pieces they got on defense and you add D'Amico Ryans, it just wouldn't shock me if the Texans won 8 or 9 games and took this division.
I love it. Breech, next bet.
Oh boy. After that long conversation, my next bet is the Titans winning the AFC South. Here's the thing is that I think that the AFC South, we talked about the AFC South when Brinson put his bet on the Falcons, and the AFC South also feels pretty open. I think Jacksonville probably has maybe the best all-around roster in the division, but it's not like head and shoulders above.
Not minus 170 good.
Right, not minus 170 good. And plus, they're going to have a target on their backs this year. This isn't like Jacksonville being able to sneak up on anyone. They're the defending division champion. Everyone is going to be coming after them. And I just feel like every year, everyone sleeps on the Titans. Since Vrabel's been hired, there's always a question mark like, they added Ryan Tannehill. Can this guy as their starting quarterback, can this team actually be any good? And then they were. Or Derrick Henry's injured. Can they possibly survive? Look, that team got the number 1 seed when Derrick Henry missed half the season. So they could, it's possible. Are the receivers bad? They probably have one of the worst receiving rooms in the NFL. That doesn't mean that they can't figure something out. It's just Vrabel's so good at defying the odds and I just feel like that he's dominated this division for so long that he can put a good enough roster together to win it. And at plus 380, I like the experience. When Tannehill's been healthy, he's 36-19 as a starter in Tennessee. He has been, I don't want to say dominant, but teams just focus so much on Derrick Henry that it allows him to succeed. So I like Tennessee at plus 380. I'm not sleeping on the Titans, guys.
I think there's also an interesting, I don't know if it's like a correlation. You can't reach that Titans helmet. What's going on there? Oh, look at those tiny little arms. You can't reach it. Breech has the Titans helmet. I will say that I think what's interesting about this is that if you take Derrick Henry at 8-1 to lead the league in rushing, he could do that and the Titans could not win the division.
Ooh.
And you could cover you would cover your loss there. You could also have the Titans win the division and Derrick Henry gets snaked in like week 17 or week 18, by, I don't know, Nick Chubb having a big game because the Browns are fighting for a playoff spot or something like that. And so you could cover your Henry bet with the Titans winning the AFC South. Now, obviously, if Derrick Henry gets hurt, you're losing both of these. So there's I don't know would that be called a negative or positive correlation? I can't really. I'm not sure. Either way, the point being is you don't you could easily win both of those. If the Titans win the division, Henry is going to be in the mix for that rushing title.
Yes.
But the Titans can win the division without him getting the rushing title.
True.
Absolutely.
All right. We have one more bet that we're making right now, but we do need to take a quick break. You're watching Pick Six, and we'll be right back.
They say patience is a virtue. But for some things, we can't wait.
Welcome back to the Pick Six podcast here with Breech and Brinson. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe, comment, do the works. And if you're listening to audio, do the same. We have one more bet that we are making right now. And I believe it is my turn, right? Yeah, I think we've all gone through. All right. Y'all have given a lot of value here. And as have I with the Bengals here. This is one that I don't mind laying $1.30 on. The Cardinals under 5 wins. It's at minus 130. They have the lowest projected win total of the season, and for very good reason. It was at 5.5. Now it's at 5, obviously, with D-Hop. It seems to me that they're just tanking at this point. Rookie head coach, rookie offensive coordinator, rookie defensive coordinator, rookie general manager. They got rid of D-Hop. They're probably going to get rid of Ertz next, and just do the full tank.
They're actually starting an infant. at quarterback while they wait.
And
They benched Colt McCoy for Breech's daughter.
Wait, I didn't even know they benched Colt McCoy. So yes,
No, I'm
even
kidding.
even
No. They didn't really bench him. I just meant like they're like, we're tanking. We're just starting Breech's daughter at quarterback.
They've given up already.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Breech's daughter is already on our conference calls and stuff. So I think she's probably capable of doing it. But yeah, I mean, I just don't see them winning a lot of games. And Brinson, you brought up that this is probably going to dip to 4.5. And so you'll get even more value on that. But I don't mind laying this right now, especially when you look at the NFC West. The Niners win total is 11.5. The Seahawks are at 9. The Rams, okay, they're at 6.5. But like you say all the time, Brinson, they've got Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. The Cards might not win a game in their division, and they see those guys twice. So I don't mind that it's minus 130. I don't think that the Cardinals get over 5 wins.
I had them, the Brinson model had them beating the Giants at home in week 2, winning at the Rams, and winning against Seattle in week 18, and that was it. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you wholeheartedly here. I think there is definitely a sense of, okay, we screwed up with Steve Keim, Cliff Kingsbury, and Kyler Murray, the 3 Ks there. We need to find a different. We need to find a different formula for trying to win football games. And they already moved on from Cliff Kingsbury, Monty Ossenfort, and Jonathan Gannon. This is not a Steve Wilkes situation where they're going to be one and done. They're not going to do that. They're not going to be paying all of that money to all the people that they fired. However, what they may do is say, we can dump out of this Kyler contract or even trade him. And, just figure out, we can take an L and go draft Caleb Williams first overall by just being terrible this year. And that really, I'm not kidding. Like, I don't think it would be crazy if Kyler Murray doesn't play a snap before Thanksgiving.
I mean, he tore his ACL in December.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even the ACL tear, even if he's okay to come back, say in week 3, if you're 0-3, do you really want to, or 0-4 or 0-5, do you want to throw him out there and risk more injury when it's a lost season? I mean, Kyler Murray's going to want to play, but there will be no reason to rush him back. So you don't bring him back at 90%. He's got to be absolutely 100% if this team's struggling. And this is, I think, is the only team in the NFL that's not favored to win a single game in 2023. And you look at their schedule, and I know, Brinson, you mentioned 3 games they might win, but just the first 5 games. They play at Washington. They have to go fly across the country. I mean, we're all probably picking the Commanders there, right? The Giants, Brinson mentioned as a possible, maybe they pull an upset at home. Then they play the Cowboys.
In some games.
Right.
You're going to win. Everybody's going to win except for the Browns and Hugh Jackson. You're going to win 3 games in a 17-game season.
Yes. But it's Commanders, Giants, Cowboys, 49ers, Bengals. That's their first 5 games. Like, what?
They could start 0-5. They could.
Absolutely.
Well, and think about it like this too. If they traded Kyler Murray, so Kyler, you can't really do anything with Kyler Murray in 2023, and he's injured, so he's not it's just not going to happen. 2024, the numbers are pretty nasty. $81.5 million in dead cap space. But if you traded him, you would have a $46 million dead cap hit. And pick up $5.6 million. Or if you released him after June 1st, you would have a $48 million dead cap hit, $3.55 million in salary cap savings in 2024, and then another $33.2 million in dead cap space in 2025. So the other option would be you draft Caleb Williams and you say, we're going to play Kyler for 1 more year and just see what happens. If he plays well, maybe we can get something where we trade him, because we start to look at that. You trade him, after the 2024 season, and the numbers, or release him post June 1, like the numbers are not bad at all. Just $33 million in dead cap space with a trade, and then a $13 million post June 1 release, $20 million the year after that, $32 million in salary cap savings. It's just, when you're tanking like that, and you tank to try to get Caleb Williams or Drake May, and you have those 2 first-round picks, the Texans and your own, it's very easy to just don't play Kyler. Hope you can trade him. Yep. And if you can't, you can release him after June 1st, or you do play Kyler the next year just in case Caleb Williams isn't ready to go.
Yeah, I really like this bet because, look, even if they win 5 games, you push and you get your money back. And I don't see any way they win 6 games. So at worst, it feels like you're pushing. And at best, it feels like you're winning.
Yep. All right. Love it. Brinson, what is your last pick?
My final bet. Aaron Donald, Defensive Player of the Year, 25-1.
Yeah. All right.
The Defensive Player of the Year, more than likely, is going to come from a team with a good record. The Rams are not, predicted to have a good record. I think their over-unders like,
I was going to say, you're losing me.
Well, they're over-under 7.5 though, right? And you just need 6.5. There you go. That's fine. Yeah. So I think it's juice the over maybe a little bit, maybe I think.
Yeah.
So juice the over. So basically Vegas is projecting a 7-10 season from the Rams. As I've said, and as I will say again and again, 7-10 and 10-7 are not that far apart. It's a couple of fluky bounces from a pig butt jammed into an oblong inflated, or like an airfield pig butt that happens to be shaped in a funky manner and bounces around the field in weird ways. It's a team that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. If they win 9 or 10 games, and Aaron Donald is one of the big reasons why, he is going to be in heavy consideration for Defensive Player of the Year. It will require, if Aaron Donald has an Aaron Donald-like season, and I don't think he will play football unless he believes he can have one. And remember, he sat out, they sort of sat everybody down at the end of last year. If Aaron Donald can't be, if Aaron Donald plays, he'll be Aaron Donald. And as such, 25-1 for him to win Defensive Player of the Year is just crazy when you consider just how many times he has been right there in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year or actually won the award.
Yeah.
I
don't hate it.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible.
3 times.
Well, and if the Rams struggle, it is not impossible for a non-playoff team to have a Defensive Player of the Year. J.J. Watt won it. I think he won it so many times. I think 2014 they did not make the playoffs and he won it. So it's certainly within the realm of possibility the team does not make the playoffs and they have a player named Defensive Player of the Year. As you said, Brinson, he wins it all the time. So
here's how he finished. He finished over the course of his career. AP, he won Defensive Rookie of the Year his first year, Defensive Player of the Year second, Defensive Player of the Year fourth, first, fifth, first, third, and then last year made the Pro Bowl but did not get any Defensive Player of the Year votes because the Rams were bad, and he sat out the final few games of the season. Like, this guy gets votes.
Yeah. No, he should. They triple team him. You still can't stop him from getting to the quarterback. So yeah, I love that. Breech, what is your final pick for the season?
The final pick. I got to top Brinson's plus 2,500. So I'm going with plus 3,000. Deshaun Watson to lead the league in passing. Look, Deshaun Watson led the league in passing in 2020, the last time he played for a somewhat good team. And then obviously it's been downhill since then. But I mean, I guess that team wasn't good at all in 2020, but whatever. He led the league in passing in 2020 the last time he was on the field. So the thing is, if he can improve, then if he doesn't look like he did the last 6 weeks of last season, then there's no reason he can't put up huge numbers. I do know the Browns love to run the ball. They finished top 6 in rushing in each of the past 3 seasons. So there's that part where you say, well, they're going to run the ball. But if Deshaun Watson comes out and looks accurate, looks making smart passes, they have Elijah Moore now. They have Amari Cooper. They have Donovan Peoples-Jones. If he's lighting them up, he's just going to, that's where you go. You say, all right, we're going to keep Nick Chubb back there. We're going to pivot to the pass. And so this is basically a bet that Deshaun Watson is going to improve a lot. And at 30-1, I'll take it. And I will say, I thought about MVP at 45-1, but then I was like, if he's neck and neck with someone, he is not getting the pity vote. So I am not going to put anything on Deshaun Watson winning MVP, but I will put it on lead the league in passing.
The one concern I have with the Watson stuff is that every year we see 1 or 2 games in Cleveland where you just can't throw the football around. And you end up with somebody getting like 48 yards passing or like 123 yards passing. And if he catches 2 of those really windy games at home, it may be difficult for him to do that. But if the Browns offense is what it's supposed to be and Watson is back to his old self, not 30-1 is a pretty good number.
Well, and that plays into Breech, our AFC North winning division, because if he throws for that much and the Browns are good, then, they could be a contender to get to possibly the Super Bowl, even though I don't know. I'm more with Douglas in the chat. I don't want to comment on Watson. I don't want to comment on Watson anymore either. All right, guys, we have just a couple minutes left here. There was some things that happened in the news. Like, for one, Tom Brady on his retirement. Billy, hopefully I'm not putting this on you too quickly, but I think we have a video to discuss. It's probably my fault because I said that we were going to not do this and then we did. So one, Tom Brady says that he is actually retiring, that he's not going to come back. So did any of us really truly think that he was going to come back and play for the Raiders? I mean, really?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah, I
kind of did. Okay.
I kind of thought he was going to come back personally.
Breech.
I mean, I still don't fully believe that Tom Brady is done. You can keep saying you're done, buddy, but I'll believe it when the season starts and Tom Brady's not playing.
Yeah. Well, here's the weird thing is that Brady literally got asked about this in April, and somebody was like, hey, you interested in coming back or playing for the Dolphins? And he left the door wide open. He definitely didn't shut anything down. And now he's giving a different answer. Here we are a month and a half later. So it's like, I don't know what to believe with. I will believe Brady is retired when he is not playing for anyone on week one. I don't think he does sound like he doesn't want to play and he is genuinely happy in retirement. But yeah, this guy, he could change his mind. Training camp starts. He doesn't want to take part in OTAs. If he was going to play, he wouldn't do it until training camp anyway. So I won't believe it till week one and he's not on the field.
All right, we have the video now. Let's hear what Tom Brady has to say.
The media, whoever it is, that's constantly concocting a way for you to come back.
I'm certain I'm not playing again. So I've tried to make that clear, and I hate to continue to profess that because I've already told people that lots of times. But I'm looking forward to my broadcasting job at Fox next year. I'm looking forward to the opportunity ahead with the Raiders, and we're in the process of that, along with the other different things that I'm a part of professionally and in my personal life, just spending as much time with my kids as I can and seeing them grow up and support the different things that they have going on. And that's a very important job. And I take them all pretty seriously.
I agree with Tom Brady. I think he's Mr. Dad now, and he's going through the divorce, and he wants to be around his family, and I think his kids are his top priority. Interesting that he brought up the Fox deal, because wasn't there news that he was possibly going to postpone that and didn't want to get to the Fox broadcasting deal in the next year? Did y'all read that?
Yeah, I think it's probably more about Brady giving a ton of money to be a Fox ambassador. So you're going to see him talking a lot about Fox. Like, he wants to bring up Fox as much as possible as a Fox ambassador. He's like not even listed as like a game. I'll be interested to see what the job is. I think they really like Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt, and
Greg Olsen's great.
I don't know how great Tom Brady is going to be at that job.
Yeah, and the one thing there is I think that the New York Post had kind of suggested that Brady was unsure if he wanted to be in the broadcast booth. He was like 50-50 about it, but clearly if he has now changed his mind and making it very clear that I am not passing up on my new job that is going to pay me $37.5 million per year. So, yeah, and as Brinson said, who knows what his actual role will be, but he will certainly be doing something for Fox when he gets into the booth or whatever he does in 2020.
He could end up being a studio analyst.
But he also said he's taking this year off, so it won't be, we're not going to see him out there this season. Maybe he shows up for playoff work if they want him, or in the studio, as Brinson said. But he's got a year. I think
he's at the point right now where, like, if you listen to him talk on these videos, and like Tom Brady's obviously very eloquent, and I think he'd be very good. I just wonder how he will be. I think he wants a year to have he wants to have a full year of practice. Practicing being in the booth, because if you read all the stuff like Tony Romo, I think he just wants a full year of practice before he dives in head first. Is my guess.
Which, by the way, is the smart thing to do. And I will say that being in the booth is a lot of travel and a lot of work. It may not be as much as playing in the NFL, but you're still on an NFL schedule. So if you are wanting to spend more time with your family, jumping right into the booth and having that kind of travel schedule and work schedule doesn't really align with that. And yeah, I would think that he would want to practice, because it's not as easy as it may seem, even if you know ball. All right, that is going to do it for our show today. I do want to mention one thing in the chat. It appears that Dom, one of our faithful listeners, is having surgery tomorrow. So Dom, we wish you well with your surgery and of course a very, very speedy recovery. We always appreciate you in the chat. And so we hope that you will be back very, very soon. Make sure you join us next week for more offseason coverage. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube page. If you're listening to audio only, download, leave a 5-star review, tell your friends to listen and watch the pod. And we will see you next week. Have a good weekend.